Um, how did I get out of the federal government? I was out of the federal government for about 3 years. Um, but before that, I'd only known like the DOD, not just feds. I was in the DOD for a good 15 years, and that's all I knew. And so I was very afraid to lose that clearance. I know you know what I'm talking about, because that clearance is like a blanket. Like that clearance, like if you have that clearance, you could be dumb as a box of rocks and still get a good ass job. You know what I'm talking about? There's some guys that, you know what I mean? Like, so anyway, how did I get out of it? So I was working at NASA. Um, so yeah, let me back up. So in the DoD, to get out of the DoD, what did I do? I had a few different steps. I started putting myself out there. So the very first thing I did, I was a contractor. So first I was in the military. I was in the military for 8 years, where I was security forces or security police for 4 of those years, and then 4 of those years I was an IT guy in the military. Did all kinds of stuff, had a clearance, all that kind of stuff. Got out, I was a contractor working for the Army, and then I was working for the Air Force as a contractor. So I did that for like 5-6 years or something. And then I just kind of like, I don't know, I hit this wall where I was like, I was losing my technical skills. I was bored. I was just absolutely bored with just doing documentation stuff. I mean, it paid all right. I was wanting to do something else. You know what I mean? I just got really bored. I really enjoyed having hands on. I really enjoyed solving harder problems. I really like it. It's like a puzzle for me. I enjoyed it. So I was like, man, I got to do something else. So I started putting myself out there, and I started off with something akin to what I'm doing now, which is like I would just tell people. I made a blog, right? This is the first thing I did. I made a blog and started helping other people do ISO stuff, because I noticed nobody at the time, nobody was talking about it. I'm telling you, nobody. Now so many people have joined in this fray. It's gotten a lot bigger. I'm seeing all kinds of people who are very popular, doing this stuff, way more popular than me, been doing it way shorter time, which is crazy. But they're killing it, and now everybody's talking. But at the time, I was like the only one. I think I was one of 3 people who was doing it outside of some major corporations that were doing it. So I got a lot of attention at the time, and somebody out of the blue saw my website, and they asked me if I could teach it, and I said yes. This small company reached out to me directly because I was putting my stuff out there, and they said, "Hey, could you teach this?" And I said, "Sure." And that job I did for about a year. They ended up hiring me. That was my first time I made 6 figures, by the way. And they hired me, and I was teaching for like 1 year. I'd go from place to place, and I didn't need a clearance for that. So that was one way I got out of the cleared space. And then after that, the next job that I didn't need a clearance at all was was no, NASA. I did need one. I did need one there. I got contacted again, another one where I'm just doing this kind of thing, where I'm just talking or doing videos or doing websites or writing about it and stuff. And then a few small companies have contacted me, and I would do work for them on the side, where they were using my clearance, weren't they? Because I had a clearance. So, but I didn't technically have to have a clearance, but I was writing their documents. They do a background check, but that's not the same as a clearance. So yeah, the couple of those small organizations, they didn't I didn't need to have a clearance to do those. I was just writing their documents or rewriting their policies or something like that. Taking it closer to now, I worked for Verizon about 4 years ago, and Verizon was 100% private is a 100% private organization. We didn't have any the division I worked in, we didn't have any contracts with the government, so I didn't need a clearance for that. And that job right there, how I got it was I started putting other things besides my background in federal government. So federal government, if you're trying to get a GRC job in federal government, you're going to put certain things that it's going to get your foot in the door. And that's like NIST, 800 risk management framework, FISMA, FedRAMP. There's these keywords in plan of action and milestone. It's system security plan. If you put those words in your resume somehow and you explain how you are able to use them or your background, you doing all that stuff, you will get contacted. You've got to word it in the right way. But if you put those things I just said in your resume, the government will contact you. And you have a clearance, they'll contact you. Here's the trick. Every industry has words like that. So what I did was I was like, man, I don't necessarily want to just work for the federal government. I want to broaden my horizons. I started realizing every organization has their own GRC and they have their own keywords that are just like those trigger words that the DoD is looking for. I started using those words. Things like ISO 27001. The federal government doesn't normally, U.S. federal government doesn't normally need or use ISO 27001. But you know who does? A bunch of federal companies do. A bunch of international companies, I should say, and organizations use ISO 27001 because it's used internationally outside of the U.S. a lot. Another one is if you were going to go into, I don't know, healthcare, HIPAA, of course. HIPAA, HITRUST. There's certain things that the healthcare organizations use that if you can find a way to get it on your resume, it will trigger. You will get contacted by them. The outside of the federal government, you will get contacted by these different organizations. So how did I do this? I started learning other frameworks. I started learning. I think the first outside network, certification or framework I got exposure to was like SOC 2, and another one was ISO 27001. So I mentioned that on my resume, and then I start getting contacts from other organizations outside of the federal government. Another one is tools. There's certain tools that the U.S. government uses a lot. If you put those tools on your resume, they will contact you. It's the same goes for the retail sector, healthcare sector, you name it. If you have access to those tools and you put them on your resume, if you learn those tools, you will get contacted outside of the federal government. That is how I got those access to those jobs, those different jobs. I mean, another thing was I kept in contact with, and this is a big one. I kept in contact with some people who I worked with, and I was a good worker, so they contacted me. And one of them happened to be not working completely outside of the government, and they were working at an organization's private. So that's how I got the job at Verizon. That was how I got the job at Verizon. So somebody who I'd been working with in NASA, she went over to work for Verizon, and then she contacted. We just stayed in contact. We would just say what's up every now and then we lost just one day. It's weird. That same day we lost the contract with NASA. The company I worked for lost the contract. She just happened to contact me and say, "Hey, how's it going?" I was like, "Hey, how are you doing?" and I said, "Yeah, we just lost our contract." She says, "Hey, we need somebody to work here. Do you need a job?" I was like, "Yeah, I do." So yeah, that's a few different ways. I put myself out there like this, like doing content, stuff like that. I've gotten a few different not positions, but kind of odd jobs here and there doing this kind of thing. Another one was on my resume, I mentioned things that were outside of the federal government. ISO 27001 was one of them. Different tools they use, like Qualys. They don't really use that outside the military, like different tools. Make sure you list all the tools you're using, even if you're doing like some stuff on your personal, like list those tools, because some organization outside of the federal government will be using it. Frameworks and stuff outside of the federal government, they'll use those. And then of course, keep in contact. Don't burn bridges. Keep in contact with people, because you never know. Like some of the people that you work for, some of your old peers, you might even have contact connections with them on LinkedIn right now. They're probably working for Google. They might be working for Meta. They might be working for, name a company. You reach out to them every now and then, say what's up, see if they have positions. I mean, worst they could say is no, right? Like I've been rejected. I've contacted some folks that I that I knew was like, hey man, you guys got, nope, sorry, we don't have anything, or maybe they didn't want to work with me or something. I don't know. But yeah, you got, those are the three main ways, and it's worked for me. It's worked for me. I mean, I'm working in the federal government still, but I have a way out. Like I have an emergency escape hatch that I can go. And what's surprising, and this is the last thing I'll say, what's surprising is I was really afraid to lose that security clearance when I first made the move, because that clearance, I knew how much power it was. You know what I mean? Like I knew having a secret RTS was powerful because it limits how many people I have to compete with, and it has a certain little bump to it when you have that clearance. But now I have the opposite feeling. I don't want a clearance anymore. I don't want to have it. I don't want to rely on it. And I can probably make more money without it, to be honest with you. Um,